Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for another weekly analysis here on gold. I am your host with the most, Forexfunded. As always, check the links in the description. 7-day free trial to the chart analysis. Trade alongside me. Anyways, let's get right into it. Just gonna go over a little bit of what I sent to the chart analysis earlier today on where I think gold is going to be going this week. So obviously the past couple weeks have really been determined have been determined is not the right word. Have really been, I don't know the word. What has mattered more than the price action of gold has been liquid gold, oil. But let's be real, we don't really give a fuck about oil, right? However, when there's very high oil prices, oil surge with not a lot of supply, that's going to create a bottleneck. That's going to create a inflation rich environment, which is going to strengthen the dollar and in short term weaken gold. So that's what we've been seeing. This last week kind of solidified to me that I think we should be looking for a bit of bullish pullback regardless of the outcome of that. Meaning, if it's just pullback, that's fine. If they want to take price lower, we need a bit of pullback, right? But if we do get some sort of solution to our oil crisis, we could see our new all-time high in Q2 2026. We're targeting around 6,000 for the next leg up, whenever that might be. But let's get into this next week, not this next quarter. So, these gray boxes are my bullish targets. It's really just fib, right? So we got two fibs from our high to our low, and then from our lower high to our low. And all of those gray boxes are just significant fib levels. Now, you can also use your bullish fibs, your low to, well, we already have that one. I'm a retard. Your low to your high for your extensions, and then you can also use your higher low to your high for some other extension confirmation, right? So take note of that. Now, going to daily, you can see we had a nice 2-3 week period of a big push down. We rejected like 78% fib, right? So from your lows to your highs, 7-8 rejection, massive rejection candle. We even turned the yearly candle red for a couple hours. um, Me personally, I think this is a good low of the year, but like I said, it really depends on the oil problem right now. Going back over here to a lower time frame, that is a very nice low that we established, right? We took the liquidity. So if there was any just basically retard buyers who bought here with a stop loss here and didn't take profit, they got fucked, right? And I did see that across a lot of brokers, the short to long percentage, during a lot of this big downfall up until about right here, it was like 70% long. Now it's about 61% short. You do want to see that. You want to see the majority of people trying to do the opposite of what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, for a winner, there needs to be a loser. So we need more losers than winners, right? So like I said, from our low to our high over here, we had a nice 50% rejection, and then from our higher low to our high, we had a 78. Wonderful rejection, right? So they're really trying to use fib. Notice how your bearish fibs are matching almost perfectly um, with our extensions, right? Now, I think there is room over here on a lower time frame. I think there is room for a bit more downside if they want to, right? If they want to pull us back more, towards this low to our high, pull out that little mini fib. We could still come into here. Also, this was a prior support resistance right here. I'm really just using these highs right here, but you pull it to the left further into price and you can see it definitely has been a support resistance. So we could come down a bit further if we wanted to see some more bullish upside. Now, for me, my bulls are not ready is breaking this low, right? This low at 43.51. If we break that, we're very likely to go to at least 61, and there is that possibility for that larger term pullback towards 78, right? Now, as you guys know, with reversal pullback, we could easily have some sort of big W formation where you come all the way down here and then have a massive reversal. So just because we come lower does not mean to me that we're gonna, go lower overall. Breaking that 70 by a good amount, kind of would to me. So I know we're gonna be focusing mostly on buys, but these are our two lower highs that we. What the fuck? These are our two lower highs that we really want to be considering. So that would be 44.04 and 43.51, right? If we break this low with a good amount of volume, we're going to travel towards the 43.51. And if we break that, we'll travel towards 61. If we break that, we'll travel towards 52.06. I'm sorry, 42.06. Also, 61 could provide a good pullback or a reversal. So you're going to want to keep your eyes on both of those levels, right? The lows themselves, I'm not really big on liquidity grabs. So if you did see a push down and a strong resumption, some of you might take that. I won't. Now, with what, take a screenshot if you want, because you want my chart. Okay, get rid of the shit that I don't care about. With our current chart, right? We had a very good Friday. Um, Daily close could have been better, right? We could have engulfed more, right? We did break the prior daily high. We weren't able to close above it. That's all right though, right? Like I said, back 4 hour, you can see how, as of right now, it's really looking like higher low, higher low. Looks like we should be able to attack the prior high, right? And after we get rid of this prior high, well, technically that is a lower high, but after we get rid of that, we should come for the next lower high, right? Which fib in surrounding it. Once you break that lower high, you should target, extensions and fib. Depending, I don't remember which exact one that was, but it's a level we want to look out for. Um, you know, oops. As I mentioned, it's very possible that they keep a bearish trend because of the oil crisis, right? If they don't have for instance, right, we could come all the way up here to one of these very good fibs and extensions and fall pretty hard, right? Now, at the same time, if we come there, we can also break up and just resume bullish massively and still have, I mean, even if you break up to here to 5,300, you still have another 7,000 pips to our main target for this year being 6K, right? What's going to determine that for myself is what happens with oil, right? We need some sort of solution to this oil problem, right? So maybe that comes from the strait, figuring out some way to get our oil through the strait. But I mean, 1/5 of the world's oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So if we're unable to get oil through there, that's a big problem. I know most of you guys, if you guys have a car, a bike, whatever, a fucking motorcycle, you've noticed the price of gas. For me personally, has went up by 80 cents ish for premium since this has started. So you don't really have to even look at an oil price to know like, fucking oil's going up. So if we get towards a good fib and we have no signs of that stopping, you have a bit more of a likelihood to fall back to the downside. Now, if you're near a fib, or even if you're just moving and there's some sort of news regarding the strait, meaning um, we've fucking taken control of it, or we invaded the Kong Island, the King Kong Island, and now we're controlling all this shit. That's a big bullish sentiment right there. So you're really gonna want to keep your eyes on the news for oil. But really, anything can happen there. But at the same time, right, what you got to think about is even when you have a massive permanent bull, a perma bull trend, like over here where you're just over here, right? Starting here in late December, even early December, late November, you could have basically bought at any point and just collected pips, right? That has to stop at some point, right? Which is exactly what you got. You got a massive pullback and then a continuation. Here we've had basically the opposite, a massive sell-off. Well, if you want that to continue, you need to pull back, right? So that's basically what I'm kind of betting on. Another thing that I brought up to my on the live last week. So from this low right here to this high, you have, oh, that's awesome. I just awesome, right? From our low to our high, which if I go on a daily, it'll make more sense, I believe. It will. So the way you see trend is, right, you broke your highs with this candle. This was your new high, and then you pulled back, right? So from that higher low to your high, what do you have? You have $1,323, right? Okay, cool, cool, cool. From our high to our low, what do we have? $1,321. So a $3 difference. And to me, that's not random. That's, the way these big algorithms, these big institutions work. They're moving very precisely. So that's part of the reason why I believe it is a good place for us to stop, a good yearly low. And then in terms of that, right, from our high to our low, what did we get? We got a 78 rejection and a dump, right? So if you use that same low, that same high to your low, that's telling us that 5136 area is awesome, right? If you're on a daily time frame, where did these lows come from? Well, they came from right here, meaning you can come all the way up to 5200 and fall. And honestly, on a daily time frame, you didn't even break the structure. You didn't break fib, you didn't do nothing. So, you know, um, that just further cements my bullish case. Now obviously, look, my bullish bias could be ruined, right? We could not want pullback. There could be some sort of new news or whatever the fuck, and we could just dump down further. But as of right now, that's not what I'm expecting. Like I said, I am expecting bullish this week, right? At least a good bullish move to retest the smallest fib golden zone, which I believe we're pretty close to, right? So that smallest fib would be from these lower highs to these lows. And you can see we're not far from the golden zone, right? It could be just 46.69, which, from current price is about 150 to $200, right? $180, right? And then if you break too far above that, you're going to want to try to come up towards 61 or the longer term 50, right? Which puts you at 47.58 to 48. You break too much above 61, you're going to head towards larger term 61, which is 4900. So we have a big playing field for the bulls, and at the same time you have a big playing field for the bears, right? From 61 to where we're at right now, the same distance, 200 fucking dollars. 78 towards where we're at now, $280, right? Another thing I will say for your bears are using this fib. So we did tap 78 perfectly. If you want me to be honest, you don't really get much better than that. So if we do fall, right, and we just show no respect to 78 and we push down, maybe even get a retest, one of the next really good prices to target is going to be that first extension, that 39.25, and then you're going to look to target 37.04, right? So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this analysis from your host with the most, Mr. Forexfunded. Hopefully you guys have been having and making some wonderful profits in the market. I will see you guys on our next video, and maybe I will even see some new faces in our chart analysis. Link in the description, or during our lives this week. I will go live at least once this week publicly, and probably 2 or 3 times for the chart analysis. So be there or miss out.